Have you ever listened to somebody tell a story and they just go on and on and on without actually getting to the point? A bit like this.
Like the time I caught the ferry over to Shelbyville? I needed a new heel for my shoe. So, I decided to go to Morganville.
Well, if you don't choose the key moments for your panels, then your comic may end up like this.
Now, where were we? Oh, yeah. The important thing was that I had an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time.
You've heard of the phrase show don't tell, right? Of course you have, you're a writer. Well, it applies to comics too, but it's applied in a different way. For example, you as an esteemed writer might write something like this. I fell to a knee, the pain agonizing as it ripped through my stomach, my eyes almost bulging out of their sockets as I screamed in terror. From a comics perspective, you could show that in a single panel. Nice and easy. But, I don't know, it seems kind of bland. As you're reading that sentence in the form of a book, you're imagining one thing after another as you read them. There's that sense of each bit of information is building up the story. The fall to the knee, the pain in the stomach, the eyes bulging, and the scream. But in a single panel, they're all kind of happening at once. And if you want that instant impact, then one panel is perfect for you. But if you want to maintain that sense of tension, then you may want to lay it out in a different way. So if you look at that sentence and pick out the key moments, then they are separate actions that you can space out. The character falling to their knees, the pain ripping through their stomach, the expression on the face, and the scream. That's 4 panels. Now you don't have to have 4 panels for this if you want to cut down on your panel count and your page count. So you can combine certain things so that you only have 2 panels. Perhaps the falling to the knee and the stomach pain is 1 panel, and the expression and the scream are the other panel. Let's look at another example and see if we can pick out the key moments. Actually, let's take Grandpa Simpson's story and see if we can pick out the key moments in that. Don't worry, as much as I want to, I won't play the whole thing. Not just to bore you, but because The Simpsons is now owned by Disney, so if I play it, then their bots will probably slam this video, if they haven't done so already. But the joke's on them because I'm not monetized yet, so yeah. But I'll put it up on screen instead. I'm going to pick out some details and I'm going to split them into 2 categories. You'll see what I mean in a second. Also, I'm not going to draw anything for this to show you that you don't need to draw to do this. First, we want to establish what descriptions push the story forwards and what descriptions set the scene up. For Grandpa's story, he mentions a big yellow onion tied to his belt. Nichols had pictures of bumblebees on him and he was about to take the ferry over to Morganville, which is what they called Shelbyville in those days. All of that part of the story is essentially scene setting, and it's basically a reference for the artist, because these are descriptions of how things are supposed to look. Now for the story part. It can help to look at your story and key point these story moments, because they will be the foundation of your panels. For Grandpa's story, these are the key moments. I figure we need to show Grandpa asking for 5 bees for a quarter, we need Grandpa to step onto the ferry, and we need to show that he's heading to Morganville, which is what they called Shelbyville at the time. By my count, that's 3 key moments in the story, so we can make that easier on ourselves by turning those into 3 panels. Panel 1, Panel 2, and Panel 3. Remember, you don't need to draw for any of these, stick figures work just fine, like these. For those of you who know this scene from The Simpsons, you may have noticed that I missed a few things out. I missed out the heel for the shoe, which is the reason he wanted to take the ferry in the first place, and I missed out that this was either during or just after the war. These, in my view, are not key moments in this specific scene. The need for the heel for his shoe could have been something that was explained in a previous scene, or maybe we just don't explain that to the audience yet. And the era in which this scene takes place can be told over the course of the entire comic if we were to stretch this out as an entire comic, which would be an amazing idea. Just take all of Grandpa's stories that he told when The Simpsons was good and make a comic out of that? Tell me that's not a good idea, I dare you.
Now, where were we?
If you want the converted script that I did of Grandpa's story, as well as the storyboard to accompany it, both of those things are on my Patreon, and the link is in the description. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, key moments. To summarize this for your comic, it can be really helpful to separate scene descriptions and story descriptions within your script. And this is especially true if you like to do a lot of world building, which I know that you do. You love it, don't you? For the overall look of the scene, or key things within the scene, like the onion on the belt and the Nichols with bumblebees on them, stick them at the top here. These are our scene descriptions that serve as a reference for the artist. You're basically telling the artist, make sure you include these things. And for all of the action that drives the story forwards, put them in their individual panels here. And speaking of driving the story forwards, it can be difficult to figure out how big or small those particular panels need to be. And thinking about your page compositions like a melody can help, and that's what we talk about in this video here.